Well, hello guys, it is Creepo and Slayer, and today, I've got a different video for us to view on my said YouTube channel. I'm going to be talking about the Greek understanding of happiness. Now, PewDiePie did his version of doing this, so I'm going to do mine. So, the Greek word for happiness or welfare is eudaimonia. I can't say that word, but look it up on Google. It's talking about human flourishment and pretty much it's talking about how that it factors into other translations, pretty much. So, I read, it said, Aristotle was mentioning about happiness, and, well, this is what he said. Well, he was talking about what happiness is, pretty much. It's self-achievement, so being achieving in oneself. There was blessedness, which means you're abundantly blessed. So, being blessed is one of the factors of being happy. There's evidence that most people, when they have something happen into their lives, whether they get a new promotion at work, whether they get something simple as like a flower to add into their garden, whether it be a new child, whether it be finishing a novel, whether it be getting groceries from your local shop, whether it be waking up and breathing every morning, whether it be having your puppy out for a walk, whether it be being safe, whether it be having friends and or family. So it all depends on the person. So the person is pretty much I'm trying to word it right, is pretty much, I guess, the key that opens all doors, pretty much. So, what do I mean by that? Well, what you get out of your lifetime could factor all things of blessedness. So, it just depends on how you see things. It's the way you see things. And, you know, the Greeks have really put into perspective of what things actually mean, not what we think they mean. See, Aristotle was a very intelligent man. He pretty much had a big understanding of the way of the world. Like, he had ideas, and he discussed them with his own people, with his civilization. And then they spread through Greece, and it became a way of doing things. So, and the word eudaimonia, speaking of that word, it said it on Google. It showed two translations of that word. It said hemonia, which it looks about the same. If not the same, because to me, it's the same word. But it doesn't have like a H. I think that's how they would say it. So I feel that that's how they would pronounce it, as this word. I pronounce it as Edmonia. So, Edmonia. It just depends if you're, I guess, Greek or not. So, but if you go to Google, you can find any valid information about happiness from pretty much any philosopher. So, and don't quote me on this, but I believe it said that Socrates actually agreed with Aristotle's statement about happiness, about flourishment. And what is achieved in life. Like, he agreed on what he said about happiness. He was just nodding his head in agreement. So, happiness is a big part of life. Now, this is what I'm adding into it. Happiness is a big factor in our lives, in our everyday lives, because if we don't have happiness, then we're all miserable gits, pretty much, if you want to put it in terms like that. We're not going to do well in our lifetime if we don't have said discussion today, happiness. So, but yeah, I don't know, I thought it'd be different to talk about Greek understanding of happiness, and that I would pass that on to you guys. From what they did, I think they would get self-achievement by just writing, you know, because they used to write a lot. So, I believe that's what basically got Aristotle and Socrates and other philosophers is their achievement of writing their thoughts down. Because once they wrote their thoughts down, they knew, they were like, hey, I had an idea about something, and I've got it. Like, maybe they've been thinking of a concept for years, and they couldn't figure out a solution for this concept. And after all the effort that they put into finding a solution for the concept, they finally achieved it. And achieving is one factor to happiness. So if you do something as writing, you will feel good about yourself. I hope you would. So, but you gotta think, though, their way of the world is maybe not our way of the world. You see what I mean? Because times were different back then. We're talking about BC here, before Christ. So, their way of thinking was so much different to how we think today. And the wording they use is so much different from what we say today. You know, obviously, there is some intelligent people, and they do use high vocabulary in their everyday language, but not as much as they used to. Seeing in Greece, they used to use very high wording or vocabulary, however you want to put it, because it's not because they were trying to sound intelligent, they just were. And they did research on stuff, you know, they were finding out what can possibly be new to discover. And they were trying to figure out, you know, what was new. In the old way of thinking, they threw that away. They tossed it in the bin. They said, nope, we don't need that way of thinking. That's already been done. We need a new way of thinking. So, go with the attitude of a guy or a girl of, hey, happiness gets me out of bed every single morning of my everyday normal life. Just think it that way. So, that's all I got for today. I hope everything that I've said in this video, well, firstly of all, you acknowledge it. Secondly of all, you do some more research. If I find any more things about either Aristotle or Socrates or any other philosopher, because there's more philosophers than just Socrates and Aristotle. Just loads more. Like, I don't know how many exactly, but I just know there's a lot more. Well, I'm going to get off this video, so I hope the day brings you much happiness, and I will see you all people later. Creep it out.